Hey, we're back with another episode. We have a special guest here with us who hasn't been on before. So I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself, let everybody know what you do and where they can find you.
Sure. My name's Lacy Lugo. I am a real estate agent in Texas and a broker in Florida. You can find me at my Realty of America office on 290 and 610. And I also own a apartment leasing company called the Apartments Concierge.
Okay, and today what I want to talk about is what does real growth look like for a brokerage? Not just as a realtor, right? Because we do have two brokerages here that are growing at the moment. What does that look like for you guys? What is the game plan? Is there just vanity metrics? Oh, we want to get the realtors with the most views, or do we looking for actual producers, or are we looking for people who are going to lead a team and help everybody grow at the same time? And so what does that look like for you?
I think for me and growth, we talked earlier, one of the things that she said caught my attention was you have to be intentional with your plans and you have to be willing to do the hard things. Being intentional with your growth plans, being honest with yourself, holding yourself accountable, and kind of knowing your limits and knowing what you can offer, I think are really important. And staying true to that brand that you want to have and why you started this. If you're not going to be true to that, then why take the gamble? There's a lot of brokers you can join to just go kind of be a number at if you're not going to do what you said you're going to do, right? And I think growth has a lot to do with that. And growth is tough because you're always changing, right? You're always growing. You're always learning. As you learn new things, you want to implement those into your business. Some of those things kind of stab you in the back, right? You're jumping on trends because you get caught up in the hype, and you have to learn to kind of put your blinders on and stay true to your vision, right? So for me, and growth is being intentional. Yeah. And staying honest to who you are as a person and how do you want to leave the industry, right? I think that's what.
Well, and uncomfortability too. Like I said earlier, students of learning, right?
Yeah.
For me, I've been in a couple different seats, right? So I've owned a boutique brokerage. We had about 40 agents. We did about 150 million in sales annually. It was a boutique, but I was everything to everyone. So I was therapist first and foremost, business operations, attraction, production, because I was still doing my own production as well. And I think as a single mom, with kids and stuff, it was hard to basically manage my time and my brokerage at the same time. It was either one or the other, right? And so something always kind of gets the short end of the stick. And so as I was transitioning through my journey and joining the brokerage that I'm at, ROA, right, was more or less for me kind of like relinquishing some of the things that I no longer wanted to be in control of, like, onboarding. Managing agents in that sense, right? Then focusing more on kind of like my business goals and like what I wanted to do in production. And so I think it comes with uncomfortability as well, being extremely uncomfortable and managing that uncomfortability while you're working through it, because that's also a very hard part. Change is scary, right, for a lot of different people. Yeah. So.
To piggyback on that point, this is a message mainly more to agents, right? I think for everyone at the seat, top down's a little different, right? But for agents in particular, you want to start and you want to look at yourself. I think accountability is important. How you grow, you talked about being uncomfortable. You have to do those uncomfortable things. You have to kind of go against the crowd, right? And it sounds so elementary. And I was telling someone this literally last night. There's, it's that school age saying that said, if your mom tells you to jump off the bridge, are you going to jump off the bridge? If everyone's jumping off the bridge, are you going to jump off the bridge? And agents, I think, get caught up on the hype all the time, and they don't look inward at the changes that they need to make. And growth is only going to happen if everyone around you grows. And these are all like typical cliche sayings is you're only as good as the people you hang around with, and don't follow the crowd. Don't do what everyone else is doing.
Show me your top 5 friends and I'll show you the future.
Yeah. And those things are so important, particularly with this agent that I was speaking to last night. It's just, you have to have that accountability within yourself. You can't put it off on anybody else. Nobody can force you to grow. Mm-hmm. You have to grow yourself because you want to.
That's the truest statement ever. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people don't want to change either. Yeah. Not to point out the person we were just talking to, but didn't want to be a realtor because it's too hard, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because you have to get up every day. You have to have self-discipline. It's like going to the gym, right?
Yeah.
If you don't go to the gym, you're not going to have a hot body, right?
Yeah.
So, you have to put the work in, and it also comes into like, what are you digesting at the same time? So you're talking about friends and situations and places and people. I have been surrounded by so many different dynamics of characters in real estate that I find that there are like 3 different types of realtors. There are like the extremely sophisticated business professionals that take their business extremely serious, and there's no fuckery in that at all. And then you have, the ones that come from the club that, they're just kind of looking for quick, easy money. And then you have the ones that think they want it, but then they don't put the work in to actually close the deals.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of different dynamics of agents, and I've seen them all.
Yeah.
But what do you think about those realtors that really just want to pick a deal here and there every year? They're happy with 1 or 2, 3 deals a year.
Get out of the real estate industry. First and foremost, please get off of the bus. Get out of here. You're ruining it for the rest of us. And I like that you said that. You are big on what's good for the market, like what's good for the industry.
Exactly.
And I believe in that wholeheartedly, that we all should be bringing the highest and best value to the industry. And I think it doesn't really matter what brokerage you're at if you're not participating in helping the change and the growth and all of those things. I think it depends on who's bringing the value and who's committed to helping not just themselves be successful, but the people they surround themselves with.
I came into the social media area, right? I didn't want it. I didn't really believe in it, right? But I started seeing that they were getting a lot of business, and it was like, man, they're getting represented by the wrong people.
Yeah.
I said, so I need to come in here and say, hey, no, that's not how you do things, right? I do understand, and I do recognize now that social media is here to stay.
Yeah.
I think that social media is going the way of what websites used to be, where people used to go to the website to see what type of company you had. Now people go to your Instagram or your TikTok to see what type of person you are or what you do, right? And so even though it's totally different, right? Website and social media page, right? They're totally different. They still fall within the same, I guess, platform or whatever, for lack of better words, right?
Yeah.
I feel like it falls under the same platform or the same thing that people are looking for.
Well, you're shopping their personality.
Exactly.
You're shopping their integrity.
So I feel that just the way that's going on, people are tired of the international BS, and the national BS. And oh my God, I can sell in 20 countries. I can sell in 20, whatever. I do have 20 countries. 20 states, right? I can sell here. I can sell there, right? People don't care anymore. People want to go back to the to micro markets. They want to get with a real estate agent that is in the area, that knows the area, that can sell. And that's what I tell people to concentrate on. And I think Giovanni has done a great job at doing that. Just people, if people want to know about a certain town, which is Baytown, they call Giovanni, and they get facts, they get knowledge, they get exactly what they want, what they need. And you see, what a lot of people don't understand or don't know, because it was so long ago, is that back in the days when you wanted to buy a home, you got up on Sunday, and you drove around looking for a house in the area that you wanted to live in. The smart people would go to the local real estate office that was there and would tell them, I'm looking for this. That person either had a listing or would go to another area or go to another brokerage, and they would share what they had.
Do you remember the newspapers? They used to post them in the newspapers back in the day. I just showed my age.
Went to the, so that's actually where my point was going, is that that's the way things used to be done. Then they started with the newspapers, right? And then
Craigslist.
Started with before Craigslist, started with the green sheets. And I don't know, nobody remembers the green sheets.
I remember green sheets.
Nobody had phones, so, green sheets were all over in the bathrooms, And people would go on the green sheets, and that was today's social media, where I don't need a realtor, I can just go straight to the buyer. I'm sorry, it's the Zillow.
Did they used to have like holders for those newspapers in the restrooms?
No.
That's weird.
No.
Well, he said that the
Also,
green sheets were in the restroom.
Were they in the bathrooms?
I said
There was always,
we used to be a
Kinda
proper
gross.
country.
listen. There used to always be either a magazine or a newspaper in the restrooms where like people, and then sometimes they'd be like stepped on or wet, and you couldn't mess with them. You'd be reading them from the.
I'm getting visualizations of this.
Some tells you that they used to still try to flip the page.
No. But
does that say it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath for $245,000?
but my point to that is that that's what people are going back to right now. People already, like right now, green sheets non-existent.
Well, they say that the social media ratio of people looking for homes essentially is much higher now on Instagram and TikTok than a lot of other platforms, including MLSs, which I think is so interesting because, But I sell luxury too. And so I have a client, specifically, she's an Instagram influencer, and she reached out to me, and they hired an agent to do a deal. And long story short, she's like, I really think that you would be able to get this handled because you do it on social media and you post it. And I find a lot of clients that find my inventory that way. So, I think it's an undervalued free platform.
Yeah. So when I came into the business, I got licensed in 2010. I think 2012 or 2013, Nate and I were sitting in a meeting, and these guys, we were looking at making an investment into a website. And it just so happened to be like, Nate was like, hey, before we make this investment here, let's look at the social media guy. And it was these Nicaraguan guy that was like coming in and trying to sell us. And he started selling us how Facebook is going to release us like Facebook ads and its analytics and all these things. And me and Nate were looking at each other like, this is crazy. So at the same time, I was in business school, and I'm in business marketing class, and I bring it up, and I'm like, hey, what do we think about social media? And this is my life hack for you guys that want to know. If you need help in your business, go to the college, and they have professors there, and they would love to help you out for free. You get free business advice. I mean, obviously you got to pay for the college class, so but I got a lot of great advice. All the professors were helping me with my pet project, but it was this company that we're running.
But did you invest?
No. Oh, on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
we invested in Facebook, and then we invested in to the Facebook analytics and all these things. So I start talking to them, and I tell them, what do y'all think? And pretty much all the college professors were telling me social media is going to die. There's been MySpace. There's been Zynga, which was another where they had CPixel. They were telling me all these examples I didn't even know. And I was like, okay. I sat in a meeting right now, and social media analytics are going to go just like Google SEO. And you're going to be able to retarget clients. You're going to be able to go. And they said, it's never going to happen. I said, okay, cool. And I came out to Nate, and I was like, we need to get on the social media thing heavy. It's never this thing's gonna grow. And obviously that was 2012, 2014. And obviously you've seen the growth in the last 10 years, 12 years.
I learned how to code on MySpace. I had a new song every week.
Right? There we go.
Yeah.
Forget about that.
I had a customized page.
I used to have my picture phone.
I forget about
I'm like,
that.
dear God, I hope that does not ever come out of the arsenal.
So this thing with the podcast that we started 2 years ago now. 2.5 years.
We're probably
weird.
up.
Yeah, I've seen some of your episodes.
So this thing with the podcast where I was on there,
And thank you for having me.
I was spitting facts, and people were getting upset. It was like hate me or love me, right? This is nothing new, because ironically, I jumped into social media in 2007, which was my first Facebook page, and it was the year I became a broker. Okay, now, I was not getting buyers from Facebook at that time. Facebook was almost like LinkedIn, where all the realtors, were on there. And I would post my inventory, and they would see my inventory, and they would ask me about it. Maybe I got a sale or two from them, where they would come in and try to buy a home and stuff like that. But that's where I started, being very well known in the industry, because I never, and I'm actually proud of this. I've never joined an association. Right? Nothing. No NARAB, no, I never went to the HAR meetings. I never did any of that. I always felt like it was all bought and paid for by their sponsors, which at that time, RE/MAX was super dominant, and they were big jerks, okay? They were real big jerks to us, okay? Second was when Zillow started coming in, right? And I found out that Zillow was embedded in our freaking
they started
HAR,
with the selling of the zip codes, and then now the other programs.
So I just felt like they were all hypocrites, and I started doing my own thing, and I've never sold out. I've never done any of that. And so I got I don't want to say famous, popular, right? Maybe not for the right things, but some people do agree with me. In 2007, all the realtors started knowing who I was, and I noticed that my deals started going smoothly because they already knew who I was. And I met so many realtors, and it helped me actually grow the brokerage at first, but then, things shifted to social media, which I could never really get on it, I really didn't know how to maneuver through it until I started doing the podcast. When I started doing the podcast, I started getting known again to the new generation.
It's because you're a little bit mouthy.
Well,
and I say that with all the respect in the
world. There's nothing that I say that I don't wholeheartedly believe in.
I've had conversations with you offline. You're exactly authentically the same person right here now as you were in your office 10 minutes ago.
Yes, yes, definitely. So like I said, I see trends. I see things changing and going back to the way things were, because it's cyclical, right? That's how you say it. Cyclical, it just goes in cycles. What I'm looking for right now is what's going to be the next thing, because this social media thing, people are tired of it. Just like they were tired of Zillow, just like they were tired of, Green Sheet, just like they were tired of, driving around on a Sunday. What's next?
I guess I forgot you had your broker's license.
Yeah.
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 How long have you had it?
2007.
Oh, yeah. See, here I graduated high school.
Speaking of trends, growth, in my opinion, is going to be one of the things that everybody's talking about, because there is no other option. People are either growing or they're shrinking, and the people that are shrinking, they're not going to talk about it. So really, what I would like to discuss is a realtor who's either looking for a change in direction to grow their business, or a new realtor who's coming in and looking for the proper guidance whenever somebody's going to pitch them growth, because everybody's going to pitch growth, except for the ones who are closing off, and they're not even going to interview people anyways, right? How do they see what actual growth looks like? Like, what is the actual path to grow and to build a business within this business?
I still say that they need to look within themselves. I'm having interviews like within this last week. I've had some good interviews, and I know that brokers are talking about growth, and they brag about themselves constantly and what they do and what they can do and what their company's doing, right? And my question is, what does that have to do with you? How is that going to help you grow your business? How are you going to take care of yourself? How are you going to put yourself in a position to be better? And I think once again, growth only starts with yourself. You have to look at yourself. You can't look at other people. You can do business with other people, and you can learn from them, and they can pull you to an extent, but at some point you're going to have to start running on your own, right?
Yeah.
So
I think it's the influencing too, like you said, just to kind of teeter back on the social media. A lot of people see realtors being successful on social media, and they have no idea the amount of work and time that it goes into doing the social media posting, shooting the content, tweaking the content. It's a full-time job. So I have videos in my vault that I haven't even rolled out, because I just haven't had time to sit there and tweak them the way that I want to, and it comes down to setting a schedule, being dedicated. When I started in this business, actually my first listing I ever got, first buyer I ever got was she's now divorced, but was married to a famous football player. Okay. At the time she was going through the divorce, and she actually contacted me on Facebook. I ended up selling her $1 million home. That was the first home transaction I ever had. And I was like, how do I get into the house? Yeah. Because I started at a brokerage that gave me no onboarding, no tools, no resources. And I was having to ask, I'm like, well, how do I get into the house? I have a client that wants to buy $1 million home. Cash, help me. And I finally was told, go down to HAR. It's the MLS in Houston, get super access. And this is when we had supers on the fobs, right? And so after that, then it was well, now I need to do a contract. And at the time in real estate school, they didn't even teach you how to do contracts. Yeah. I don't know if y'all remember that or not. And so I was calling the operations manager who, was out trying to get help writing a contract on $1 million transaction, that's a big freaking deal, right? And it was just a shit show. It was just a mess. And so when you talk about structure and growth and training and tools and resources, I think that if you have none of that foundation, from being onboarded properly to knowing if you're a new agent, how to get the tools and resources that apply to your market, right? To, do I even know how to write the contract? And in real estate school, they're getting much better about it now. They're actually teaching them how to write the contracts. But I was big, because I come from the apartment industry. The lease that we have is 30 something pages long. It's regulated by the Texas Apartment Association. And I took that thing home and I read every freaking paragraph, so that when clients would come in and they would ask you all this laundry list of questions, how to sign this lease, I could recite it by paragraph. Now they've made changes since then, right? So I probably couldn't do that now. But I think that it's self-motivation. Yeah. Because you could very easily, in Texas, most federally regulated and promulgated state, right? But if you read the freaking contract, it's self-explanatory.
That's how I taught myself by reading.
And if you don't know, Google it. If you can't, but a lot of people don't even take that initiative.
Yeah, and that's the problem. I just started interviewing again, right? Mm-hmm. And these people are sitting in front of me. I was actually giving Vic a lot of heat. I said, "Bro, what's going on? I seen you with 7 people in here. Why haven't you got any of them?" And he's like, I don't like any of them. He said they're not a fit. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna start interviewing, and I sit down and I talk to these people, and they're like, you just hear words I'm asking them questions well, what are your plans, or what are you trying to do? Oh man, I need to make money. How much? I need to make $150,000 a year. I need to hustle. Mm-hmm. I'm a hustle, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. Take it easy. What do you have? You're coming in here, you're asking me for this. this sweetheart deal that supposedly you have where you're at now, but you're leaving, right? So, you know, what are you bringing to the table? That's how I interview, right? And you know, they don't know, you know, they're just like, well, I want to, you know, when I came in here, I made I almost made 200,000 my first year. I said, well, what year did you come in? You know, what year did they come in? COVID. And I'm like, that was a crazy year.
Yeah, it was.
You did not sell that much.
Abnormal.
I said, interest rates sold. I said, so now you have to learn. And this is the biggest problem with all the real estate agents right now. They made a lot of money very quickly. Mm-hmm. The faucet turned off. Now it's time to sell real estate, right? And so...
You mean actually work.
Actually work. And so the thing is, it all comes down to my favorite word, right? It all comes down to humility. It all comes down to their pride and their ego, okay? They made a lot of money, and now they're going to make less money, right? With more work. Because they have to start from that beginning, from that baseline that they totally ignored because it was in demand. And if they're going to start from that baseline, it comes with that humility. It comes with that ego, you know, hurt. Yeah, exactly.
Ego death.
Yes. And you have to start from the beginning. Say, okay, you had a great run. Let's start from the beginning. And they don't want to. What they want to do is they want to look for the next best thing. Who's going to help me? He's making money. He's doing this. He's doing that. You know, this is a national company that's going to take me to the big time, you know? And you know, I keep telling them, hey, I don't care where you end up.
No jabs necessary.
No jabs at all. No jabs at all. Because you're not the only national company. There's more. And I keep telling them, no matter where you land, national company, boutique, you know, whatever it is, you become your own broker. Mm-hmm. That's even harder right now. You're going to have to start from that baseline and work your essentially build your book of business, you know?
Well, you know that the Texas Real Estate Commission during COVID reported about 240,000 license holders, mm-hmm. and that number has been chopped in half. Now.
Is it half? I thought
we have to take into account that there were a lot of people that did retire. So it's 45 to 50,000 realtors in Houston. Uh-huh. Yeah. I'm talking about for the state of Texas.
See, there it goes.
So for the state of Texas, it dropped to about 150,000 active license holders. Mm-hmm. So, but you have to take into consideration some people retired, and then some people just finally threw the baton in and were like, "I'm quitting because I'm not making any money." Thank God, get out of here.
I think with COVID and social media and a lot of technology, I think if pushed a lot of older generation realtors out, mm-hmm. which quite honestly, you know, shout out to you guys. Thank you for your service. But bro,
thank you for setting the foundation.
Yeah, 20 years, 30 years in this business, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. Showing houses and
a lot of gray hair.
Yeah, you know, and you know, and then with all the contract changes and negotiating your commission, some older realtors, I mean, not even older, a lot of realtors can't wrap their mind around how to negotiate for their own commission. And those things have caused changes and selling barriers in their business, mm-hmm. you know, and at the end of the day, this is why we say at Lionsgate Realty, we are true salespeople at the end of the day. And we want to give you that great customer service. We want to give you a good experience. I want you to enjoy the home buying process with us. And we are salespeople. I'm not here to, you know, consult you and guide you. I'm here to tell you what you need to do because I have the experience and we have the knowledge and I'm confident in what I'm telling you to do. Mm-hmm. Right. And obviously it's up to you to make that decision. Right. But we are salespeople and people aren't. And now we've been training our agents since 2010, 2007, to do that. Our agents are trained. They know how to fight for their commission. It's been I'm on the HAR MLS like Facebook pages where people are arguing about offering commissions or not. and we're, you know, I'm excited to announce that we have actively given ourselves a great pay raise here at Lionsgate Realty. And we are making way more money per transaction. Our customers are happy. They're making more money as well. And it's a win-win situation for everyone around.
Well, now I understand why you guys can afford these snazzy suits and this nice office you have here downtown.
It's a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
You know, we're not looking to dominate the world. We're looking to dominate Houston.
Dominate the market.
And so the thing is that it's funny because we actually had a builder that reached out to us and asked for a few of our salespeople. And so Vic took a couple of salespeople down there, and you know there was three of them, two newbies, right, that came from another, literally newbies, like a couple of days old, that were trying just to make them some money. Yeah. And then you have one of our guys that's we've been training for what? How long has he been here? 2 years, 3 years? Mm-hmm. And so you take all three of them out there. Our guy gets a contract and is negotiating another one, and the other two got nothing. And they're like, oh yeah, well he got lucky. And Vegas like, no, there's nothing to do with luck.
There's nothing in the game of luck.
This is training. This is overcoming objections.
Having your rebuttals lined up. It's just.
Yeah. Well, because like I said, I came from the apartment industry, and we were always prompted to ask for the close like 2-3 times before they even left the property.
Yeah.
So I find it interesting that realtors don't utilize that same mindset when they're showing homes. But, back to the contracts, with all the changes that we have had, and with Texas having their own promulgated forms, it's been difficult, I think, even for some seasoned agents to even understand, like, well, where do I put, the seller's contribution, or where do I put the, the commission contribution? Because it's much more
different.
Intricate than it was before, right?
Yeah.
Personally, I never understood the thought process behind people saying, well, they didn't know we were being represented. Like, isn't that the first thing you do?
Yeah.
That's the first thing I do. I'm not doing anything without having a written agreement with my client.
Yeah.
I was trained like that. I was trained like that too. That's why I'm going to ask you to join us.
Yeah.
You should join us.
Oh, Nate, you can't afford me.
Bring your whole team.
I'm not gonna snitch on myself, but I may or may not have not cared about the representation agreement before.
It's none of my business. I never saw it.
But I absolutely care
God,
about the
I hope Trek doesn't hear that.
I absolutely care about the representation agreement now, and back to telling you, taking our business back to where it needs to be. In my opinion, it's having those buyer consultations, reading through the representation agreement, getting them to understand the cost of my services and why they should use me, has made my life so much better. It gives clarity and understanding to our clients, and they feel like they're being represented by somebody. And you see this in other industries. We're not attorneys, right? But you see the fee attorneys, you see these crap attorneys that do whatever, and then you see the guys that hold the line and charge for their services, and you get what you pay for, right? And I'm assuming that's where that saying came from, because you're going to end up 20 years in jail, or you're going to get off scot-free if you don't pick your attorney right.
Well, they say, ask me how expensive it would be if you hired an amateur, right?
Yeah.
It's much more expensive to hire an amateur because the liability, the legalities that come along with that.
Oh, yeah.
The lack of experience and education.
Yeah.
I always, I think it's always great to be new in an industry, right?
Yeah.
Because everybody's got to start somewhere, right? But really understanding what you're selling before you start selling it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't do that. They just kind of like fly under the radar and try to get in, right? And it's concerning to the industry.
Yeah, tying all these things together. I mean, we having an issue. I've taken over a new community recently, and you have these older, these realtors that are just realtors, and we're coming in with a different mindset as far as providing sales staff, manning the office, creating a
value proposition.
With the builder, and it's a different understanding. This builder has a lot of money. They're millions of dollars into this project, and I was telling the builder, you're not holding yourself to the standard that you should be holding yourself for the amount of money that you're investing into your property. And these realtors don't have the knowledge nor the experience to even provide you that service to get you to that next level. And with having the one conversation, just letting them know on things that would change in their business, just going over there one weekend and some marketing tactics that I implemented that weekend, we're able to get 3 pop-in clients, and they haven't seen anybody since October. And these people are walking into the property, and their excuses were, oh, the neighborhood's bad. Oh, it looks disgusting. Oh, is this? A lot of excuses. I love the neighborhood. It's in a gated community. It's safe. I could market it. I make my pitch, and I get clients in there. You haven't seen anybody since October coming through your community. They have a camera outside of their, gate, and they were shocked to have 3 people. I hadn't even been there 2 days. There's something to be had of working with people with experience, that believe in your product, that believe in you, that can help you kind of execute as builders, And a lot of realtors don't know how to do half these things.
Yeah. And before we exit out on this podcast, 10-second round, right? Try to keep it within 10 seconds. I want to know what you guys think what are you predicting for 2026 internally within the business when it comes to brokerages and realtors, not necessarily market-wise, on the buying and selling side. Go ahead and let Lacy go first.
Oh, man. Year of the horse. I'm excited. Lots of growth and experience. I think that we're going to see a lot of realtors that are inexperienced fall off. I think we're going to see brokers understand that the liability has stepped up extensively in comparison to last year. And I think we're going to see a lot of people go get jobs.
Yeah.
I just want to, before Vic goes, this year was the year of the horse. Mm-hmm. This year was the year of the snake, right? So you see a lot of realtors being shed, right? And then next year is going to be the year of the horse. So I'm stealing that from her.
Yeah, but really, the year of the snake.
I don't believe in any of that.
It is. It's a lot of shedding. You don't believe in any of that?
No, I was just copying your.
Well, we talked about spirituality earlier.
Go ahead.
For me and what I see next year, I see a lot of great opportunities. I think we've had a really rough 2 years. I think that a lot of people have already fallen off. I think a lot of people have already gotten jobs. I think a lot of people have already left the industry. Mm-hmm. And I think that the people that are serious about it, this is your sign. Take it serious. Grow. Next year's your time.
Set the bar high.
Yeah. So, like I said, next year you're gonna see less realtors, but a lot more sales. I've been kind of reading the market, kind of feeling it out, doing my research, and it looks like everybody's holding off. All the investors, all the they want to know what's going to happen next year, and I think that right now is the training time for us, and like I said, like Vic said, we train salespeople, and that's actually a question that I wanted to ask you. Mm-hmm. Is a real estate agent a salesperson or a consultant?
I say both.
Okay.
But also, I'm not a normal realtor. I teeter in a different realm because I do, consulting on a lot of different things. But I think an experienced agent who sees monetization in any form of business. I'm a businesswoman. Let me just clarify that. I think that's probably why I look at it as both. I'm a salesperson. I'm selling myself. I'm selling a product. I'm selling a service. I'm selling my brokerage. I'm selling freaking ice to an Eskimo, right? But I'm also a consultant because I'm consulting with the realtors that are underneath me. I'm consulting with clients that work with me. I'm consulting with, my peer group. It's a very unilateral question.
Yeah.
So you do consulting work? Because
Yes.
I do consulting work. You do consulting work? How do you charge for that consulting work?
It just depends on the deal structure. So you can take an equity position in a deal that you're working on. If you have a consulting agreement that, I have one my attorney drafted. If it's something that's not real estate transactional, like if it's anything tied to my license where I'm writing a contract, that's obviously real estate related, right? But if it's something where I might be consulting in a business or I might be working with a client for whatever reason, yes, I do that.
Okay.
And it's been a variety of things from, I've worked on some oil and gas deals. I've worked on, apartment stuff. It's a variety.
So when I consult, I charge by the hour, right? Or I charge by the hour for my time. Sometimes I do a flat fee depending, and also take equity positions. Never charge commissions.
Yeah, there's no commission charge.
I never charge commissions.
Yeah.
Realtors charge commissions. So they are salespeople. They are not consultants. And when I talk to my realtors, I'm not consulting with them. I'm a sales director. I'm leading them. Okay. So I'm not trying, I think that's one of the biggest problems in this industry is that realtors are walking around acting like they're consultants, like they have all this freaking knowledge in the world to give out and consult. If you're a consultant, you're getting paid for your time. Realtors are not getting paid for their time. They're getting paid to get the deal done, to do the contract, to do the closing.
Paid on the close.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's
services rendered.
You see, and that's the thing, that there's nobody out there correcting these things. They're just letting a bunch of clowns get on the internet and say crazy things, And that's one of my things that I
think that also comes through experience because, me 12 years ago versus me today, we're not even the same woman, So, and that came through experience and lessons and trials and tribulations.
I think through biology, like every 5 years, your body cells kind of regenerate.
7.
Nice.
And before we go into
Including
our
the brain.
biology lesson, we do have a Spanish podcast and everybody's waiting in the hallway. So we have to close out.
It's 7 for you because your body's a little
Well, you'll have to
slower.
invite me back then.
So we're going to go ahead and close out. We'll let you exit, let everybody know who you are and where they can find you and what you do again, okay?
Oh, yes. I did not mention my social media handle earlier.
Oh, yes. Let's do that now.
List with Lacy _FLTX for Florida and Texas. Find me on Instagram, and you can find me on the MLS.
There you go. My name is Victorino Cortez. I'm the president here at Lionsgate Realty. You can find me at Real Presidente on Instagram. I look forward to hearing from you guys.
And I'm Nate Balderas. I'm the master broker here at Lionsgate Realty, and I am a salesperson.
I'm Giovanni here, the gracious host of the HBR podcast. And until next time, let's go.
Great job.